기자부대, hop on the beat!
Welcome back to another JoJo chapter review. This time we'll be taking a look at the 8th chapter of Crazy Diamond's Demonic Heartbreak, the prequel to Part 4 starring Josuke and Hol Horse. In the last chapter, Josuke managed to catch the man with the crossbow, and Hol Horse was able to shoot pet sounds out of the sky. The chapter begins with Hol Horse and Josuke talking to Ryohei about the recent arrest. Now that Josuke and Hol Horse think they've resolved the problem, they turn their focus to helping Boingo find his book. Boingo himself thinks he won't be of any use finding it, but Ryohei is able to motivate him to try. Josuke and Hol Horse start going around with posters to find it, and seeing the picture of the manga makes Josuke remember that he saw Ryoko with it before. We switch to Ryoko's perspective, where she remembers hearing the news of Kakuin's death. She tries to figure out what the meaning of the book's prediction is, and realizes that the bomb mentioned in the book may be referring to Josuke when he blows up in anger. Josuke tracks Ryoko down and tries to get her to hand over the book. He questions why she would want it, and she talks about her regret from the past regarding Kakuin. We get a flashback of Kakuin's first encounter with Dio in Egypt. Ryoko had gotten lost on their family trip, and while Kakuin was looking for her, he ran into Dio. Dio says that his family trip and chance encounter with him was all planned. I don't think Dio means that this was literally planned by him or anything, but is instead referring to the concept of gravity that he tells Pucci about in Part 6. This is also the same kind of force that causes stand users to be drawn to each other. Ryoko tries to say something, but Kakuin tells her to just remain hidden. Dio starts telling Kakuin to not be afraid and to become his friend, which is exactly how Kakuin described their first meeting during his flashback from the Derby fight. Dio stops time to appear beside him, and before he's able to attack with Hierophant Green, he implants a flesh bud into him, in a way similar to how Avdol was almost implanted with one. What's interesting is that this is actually the first time we've seen a flesh bud get put in someone in the series. All the other times they've happened off screen. At the end of the flashback, we see Kakuin fall completely under Dio's control. After hearing her story, Josuke recognizes the name Dio from what Hol Horse told him before. Then we move on to Kiyohara, the man with the crossbow that was captured in the last chapter. A guard flashes a light on him, which makes him remember when he was being brought to the jail. While he was in the back of the police car, Karaya, the officer we saw a few chapters earlier, starts talking to him. It's revealed that Karaya is the one who actually stole the parrot, meaning Kiyohara is just a pawn. Karaya determines that he's useless now, and Pet Sounds appears outside the window to inflict its ability on him. The chapter ends with Kiyohara having a mental breakdown in his cell, presumably seeing something horrifying due to the ability. This was a pretty great chapter. I was really surprised to see everyone together with Ryohei at the beginning, since it's interesting to see some non-Part 4 characters crossing over with him. It was also great to see him inspire Boingo, which shows how good of a person he was and how he likely inspired Josuke in the past. Ryoko's story was definitely the highlight of this chapter, and it was great seeing Kakuin's transformation into one of Dio's servants. Finally, we get the reveal of the true villain of this story. I honestly have no idea why I thought Kiyohara was going to be the parrot thief in my previous reviews, when it was much more likely he was just a pawn. Earlier during the thief's first introduction, it seemed like he was aware of stands and likely has one himself, while with Kiyohara, I don't think he was really aware of that kind of thing. It's also interesting that it's Karaya, since I suspected that they'd have some kind of significance in the story earlier due to their unique design. Something I came to realize after this chapter is that we don't actually know Karaya's gender. In Japanese, no gendered pronouns have been used yet for the character, so we don't really know whether they're a man or a woman. The appearance of the character is definitely more androgynous than the others as well. I do think it's more likely that Karaya is a man, but it would be interesting to have potentially the first female main villain in a JoJo manga. We also have to look forward to Karaya's stand ability, which so far hasn't been shown at all. This chapter also lets us know that Pet Sounds is still alive, since the scene in the police car takes place after the time he was supposedly shot. Whether Pet Sounds just has one wing now and survived, or if the shooting was some kind of illusion is unknown. I'm glad though, since this still opens up the possibility of Pet Sounds making it back to Egypt where he belongs. We also still have yet to know the name of Pet Sounds' stand. So far, we only have the one music reference in this manga, so I'd love to see a couple more with the names of the new stands. With this new development, we also need to take the length of the story into account. I find it pretty unlikely that it'll be wrapped up in the next 2 chapters, since that's how many would fit in a second volume. So it seems like we'll be getting a 3rd volume, or around a minimum of 7 more chapters. Personally, I'm fine with the story going on as long as it needs, but if this ends up having something like 5 volumes, then I'd be really satisfied with having such a lengthy spin-off. One clue to the manga's length comes from the volume spine art. The first volume spine has Josuke from the first volume cover, so possibly the second spine will have Hol Horse, and then maybe the third would have Ryoko. I think that's a pretty satisfying number since those are the 3 main characters of this story, but it remains to be seen how things will go. We're finally almost at September, and now just like last year, a lot of things are starting to happen again when it comes to JoJo. The Part 6 anime's second batch will be releasing on the 1st, which you can definitely expect me to cover in a differences video. The fighting game JoJo's Bizarre Adventure All-Star Battle R will also be releasing on the same day, and I may end up covering that in some way as well. We also recently got the announcement for a 3rd season of the Thus Spoke Kishibe Rohan TV drama. Just like with the first 2 batches, all 3 episodes will release in December. I'm really excited to see this since the TV drama has been one of my favorite pieces of JoJo media in recent memory. I'm really looking forward to seeing which stories they'll cover, whether they're from the Rohan manga, the short story collection, or an altered story from the Part 4 manga itself. I'll definitely be covering that as well in a new differences video. That's all I have to talk about today, but keep up with the channel since I'll have lots of videos coming out in September. If you want to be updated on new videos or the release of chapters like this one, join the Haman Beat Discord using the link in the description. To receive rewards like Discord perks and some uncut videos, you can support the channel on Patreon. And finally, for future videos, subscribe to the channel. Thank you for watching. This is the part of the video where I thank my $5 and up patrons. Thank you to Alex Ramirez, Doorbell, Ashton Joseph Miller, Crayon, Rigo Vids, Zukato, Sentai, Pumpkin Doge, Mero, Almighty Quarth, Oof, Cowrie, Halil, Gatlin Grove, Vess, and Lime Jinjo.